Hello, books.
Okay.
And
I gotta check my card because my wife can't find her purse.
oh shoot, that's a problem.
Be back.
Okay, is the sign up?
It's right behind Cam.
Oh, Cam,
Oh, so, yeah, I
can you
got
throw
you.
that sign up there?
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Comic reviews for the week of 1/12/21.
Oh, you're leaving?
Okay. All right. Hello. Let me fix this and hopefully, okay, we're live. I took off my mask so the deaf community can read my lips because I can't sign fast enough. Sorry. But we do again encourage you to please wear a mask at all times unless you're doing comic reviews, and then take it off, but keep 6 feet of distance. Anyways, I have had the wildest of weeks. It was crazy, but I feel like I'm clawing my way out of depression finally and starting to feel kind of alive again, and it's pretty happy to feel this way. So I'm hopeful for the future, which is nice, and that's a pretty good message to have, anyways. With everything going, yeah, the whole world seems to be on fire these days. So we've got pop culture news. Any pop culture news? WandaVision is this week. This week, I can't wait. We're for anyone that knows what happens in WandaVision, it's kind of a wild ending there.
I mean, nobody knows where it's gonna go because we don't know how much was pulled from the.
Is it gonna lead to the House of M?
It might be combined with
It
it.
should, right?
And there's a secret character showing up sometime.
I just want to see her whisper "No more mutants." That's all I want to see. But WandaVision's this week, so don't miss that. Make sure you're watching that. What else we got going on, Cam? Cam, can I throw this? That's okay. What else we got going on? Batwoman. Is it still Ruby Rose?
No, this is the new one, Ryan Wilder.
Oh yeah. Okay.
With Black Mask as the villain.
Should be fun. It's kind of sad because I thought Ruby Rose was a good cast too.
It's that injury and that surgery, how they handled it.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? What else we got going on? Any other pop culture news? I can't think of anything.
All the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. Can't wait. Okay, so we'll jump into comics. We do have other news on comics. Amazing Spider-Man 55. If you missed some of those, we have second print on order, so get in your orders soon. We've already sold about half of them. So if you're dying for that cover, I mean, I honestly think the second print cover looks better than the first print. It's that red. It looks great. So did it? We still have some though, so if you want to order, I ordered plenty. So if you want to order some, just contact us or order through the site. We'll get you some. Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man number 62 is a new suit. We've seen it. It's a new suit. We will have lots of copies of that issue. It's not horrible. It's not horrible. It's just not great. It's a little weird. What else? We ordered some more second prints of Star Wars High Republic because, man, that flew off the shelves. People are going crazy about that stuff. So, yeah. Let's start with DC this week. Let's start with Tamaki, Rosenberg, Mora, Gianno Menko, and Belair and Fabella. My, that was a mouthful. And we're talking about Dark Detective. Now, this is Dark Detective. This takes place during Future State. We're not entirely sure, but this is when the magistrate has control of Gotham. Yeah, okay. So it's when the magistrate has control of Gotham, and Bruce Wayne has actually, people seem to think he's dead. But, if you know Bruce Wayne and you know Batman, you know that he's okay with being seen as dead and being a ghost. That's kind of his jam at times. And the second story tied to this is Grifter. Now, it was really, really good art. It felt at times like Batman Incorporated is what I felt like I was looking at. I like the art quite a bit. The story's good. The first story is great. The second story's centering around. You need to go. Okay, yeah, go. The second story centers around Grifter. Grifter's he's not one of my favorite characters, but if you were wondering what he was doing in Future State, you're gonna get an answer on that. It's okay. It's okay. As far as like the Dark Detective story, I had a great time with the Dark Detective story. A really, really good time, and I think that alone is worth buying. The Grifter story was okay. There's one character in particular that's tied to Grifter that's tied to the Bat family, which if you know the Bat family, you know this is one of the characters that pops up very infrequently. She's got the little crossbow. So she's in it, and I'm happy to see that and see where they're going with it. But yeah, I would say don't skip it this week. It was great. Now, well, they haven't fully fleshed that out yet. Waters, Del Duca, and Filardi, and we're talking about Superman, Wonder Woman. Now, I love this instance of Wonder Woman. Oddly enough, I really liked it. I got online, and some people didn't like that issue, and they said she seemed like a brat. I didn't see that. I saw that she seemed kind of impulsive at times, which felt like old school Diana, in my opinion. So I rather like this Wonder Woman. Now, the Jonathan Kent, the Metropolis, Superman, blah, blah, Metropolis. What was it called again? Superman
Metropolis.
Yeah, Superman Metropolis. It was okay. I wasn't fully sold on that one. And I was excited they're going to this because, Superman, Wonder Woman, and I who doesn't love that combination of the Trinity? It didn't really deliver like it should have. The art was good. The art was, it was okay. I'm going to say it's okay. There were some pages where looking at Jonathan Kent's face, I was like, well, what's going on here? You'll have to pick it up and take a look to see if you agree with me or if you're kind of... I'm a huge art snob, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But the story was, rickety at best. I don't know. I didn't like the story. I didn't much care for the villain, and... although Wonder Woman did do something that did make me chuckle at one point, and I kind of enjoyed the rest of it, could have kind of left by the wayside. I would say this one, in my opinion, is kind of skippable. There's plenty of good Future State on the shelf, and this one, it was okay. Next is a Future State story I actually really, really, really loved. And unfortunately, I only have the variant because people already bought all the copies off our shelf, which again, please, God, please, get in orders before FOC. Please get in orders before FOC so that you don't take everything we're putting on the shelf that week, which is exactly what happened to Green Lantern because a lot of people put in after the FOC. So we announced it on social media. Please put in for that. But this is the variant for Green Lantern. If you can't tell, I saw this cover and I thought this was a character from Far Sector that Joe Mullen, Far Sector, was dealing with. No, it actually turns out that's John Stewart. That's my man, John Stewart. And he looks like an absolute badass in this. I will agree. You're getting, in this issue in particular, you're getting a John Stewart wielding pretty much a lightsaber. And dealing with sort of, an apocalyptic scenario of sorts and fighting a cult that worships the Red God. It seems to be referencing the Red Lanterns and Atrocitus. We're not fully certain, but that seems to be where they're going. The second story, however, felt like I was reading an Alien story, except the alien in the story was Jessica Cruz ambushing some Sinestro Corps members, which was awesome. It was awesome for so many reasons. And, I like Jessica Cruz quite a bit, but that blew my mind. Hi, Carl, by the way. I saw that. That story blew my mind. So that second story alone is worth buying. The first story centers around John Stewart, which again is worth buying. And the third story centers around Guy Gardner, but it's Guy Gardner without powers. And while it was funny, it was okay. I had an okay time with it. I love Guy Gardner. I didn't like Guy Gardner without powers. It was kind of weird. You'll see what I mean. But two good stories, totally worth buying if you're a Lantern Corps fan. I think you will honestly love this. It's a bit weird. I will say a lot of this Future State stuff is kind of weird. You're gonna have to set, your previous knowledge aside and let it build up and see what comes of it. Next is Sheridan, Sandoval, Tarragona, and Sanchez, and we're talking about Teen Titans. There is a lot, and I mean a lot to unpack from this Teen Titans, and it's difficult to talk about without spoiling this. This picks up on the heels of Death Metal and what happened, and we got basically a combined Teen Titans team. It was the old team and the new team sort of coming together. And what was going to be like brought out of that, and what is brought out of that is a lot of weird. I can't spoil too much, but I will say if you're a fan of a certain red character with an X on his face, yeah, I've kind of spoiled that, haven't I? But we all knew it was coming. Red X makes an appearance. Do we get an answer as to who he is? You're going to have to read and find out. I'm not going to spoil that for you. What I will say is there is something weird and strange, a combination of two characters that I never thought I would ever see, at least in costume form. It's the strangest ending I've seen. So there's a lot of questions here. We do get two other characters get combined, and I, oddly enough, really love that character. Another thing I can't spoil. So this Teen Titans was awesome. I would say this is a don't skip this week. I was hooked. I love to see the teams clashing, and I wanted to know where it was going. And when I reached the last page, I wanted more. So good showing, guys. That Teen Titans is amazing. Now for Bennett Savage and a book that I didn't think was all that amazing. That's Kara Zor-El, Superwoman. I'm not sure. This book didn't hook me. It seemed like it was mostly about building a friendship with an energy asteroid princess person. And while the art was really good, like I really liked the art, I wasn't entirely sure where the story was going. And, maybe part of that is because I have to speed read things. So sometimes a little bit of stuff gets lost in translation. I literally have to read a novel. But again, another part of this is I don't think this book was aimed at me. I think this book is more aimed at younger gals, probably like tween age or maybe teenage kind of gals. Definitely not my age group or my demographic. So it was okay. I would say this is a perfectly great book to give a young gal who's grown up. Some good Superwoman stuff. I had an okay time with it. It just wasn't great. And, again, probably not marketed to me. The art was really good. If you like Peach Momoko, I will say this art at times felt like Peach Momoko. It was kind of fun. You see what I mean? It's not who?
She didn't do the interior, right?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, so it was okay. If you like art, I would say maybe don't skip it. If you are looking for a good story and you're a middle-aged man like me, that's probably not your book. Is it possible to read just one era of Future State, or do you have to read everything in the lineup? No, you can pick and choose. They're not all linked. And in fact, the timeline for Future State spans from shortly after Dark Knight's Death Metal all the way to like 10,000 BC, AD, 10,000 AD, BC. I'm getting it confused with the Avengers, 10,000 BC. Next is Future State, Robin Eternal, and this is Fitzmartin, Barrows, Ferreira, and Lucas. And from the first page on, we knew that it was centering around Tim Drake. I mean, it kind of makes sense if you're going to do a Future State story involving like a bunch of high tech stuff. Which Robin would you choose? Probably Red Robin. Just makes sense. But we do get the backstory on what happens to the other members of the Robin family, as well as, and I'm very happy to say this because I love this storyline, even though a lot of other people didn't love it. But we get a character from We Are Robin, and yeah, the callbacks to it is great. I honestly, I loved We Are Robin. Something about like using the team of Robins as like a sleeper cell team to rise up and fight like the different gangs of Gotham, and Robins that didn't need a Batman. It just felt right to me. Plus, as much as I love Duke Thomas, like that's Duke's roots. So but we do get that. We get a character from We Are Robin, and it's one of my favorite characters. So I would say if you're a real Robin fan, if you're a Robin fan in general, don't skip this. It was really fun. Plenty of action, plenty of fun. A certain girl that dates Tim Drake might also be in it. So yeah, if you know these characters, don't skip it. Next is probably my DC pick of the week for good reason. This is Williamson v. Roca, Takara, Henriquez, Ferraro Jr., and Mayolo. And let's discuss this Justice League issue. This is Future State Justice League. I at first wasn't feeling this. I will flat out say it. The first couple of pages, I wasn't feeling this. This felt like a standard sort of Justice League detective sort of story where, you know, part of the team is doing one thing, part of the team is doing the other thing. And they had Far Sector Joe Mullen in there. And you know that if there's something, if somebody's got to do something or get to the bottom of something, Joe is the one who's doing it. She's doing more in this comic than Batman. And if you know her as a character, that makes sense. So I honestly love anything with Joe Mullen. And so I was super hyped about this to begin with. I'm loving the new Batman who's calling himself Jace Fox, even though it's Tim Fox technically. Jace does sound better. So I love how this set up, but the twist in the Justice League story, like it was building one way and then went completely the other. And I'm very happy to say that when it happens, we get a very badass Joe Mullen moment that I loved. Like I reread it like 3 times because it was that awesome. So that alone is worth picking up this book. That story alone is worth it. But what else do you get? Well, you get Justice League Dark. Justice League Dark. And it seems like it's mostly the same team, except gone the form of Simeon. So if you know what Simeon means, you'll know what that means. And I was pretty surprised and kind of happy. And the Justice League Dark story played out perfectly well. Do you get a grand entrance from Constantine in it? Yeah, you do, with the lighter flick and everything. It's friggin' perfect. So both stories were told epically well. They were told great. The twists were great. The way they played out was great. The art, oddly enough, was outstanding. I had a good time with it. I was not bored at all. Nothing about this was bad. It was an amazing book. So that's my DC pick of the week. It's definitely Future State Justice League. If we get Justice League, does Zatanna pop up? Yes, Zatanna pops up. I'm happy to say this is most of the regular Justice League Dark team. And what happens kind of unites them all. So, yeah, you'll see. Next is Michael Green, Mike Johnson, Andre Gullado, and this is Blade Runner 2029. Is this cover Peach Momoko? Oh, yes. It sure is. It sure is a Peach Momoko. She's doing a lot of A covers these days. She's doing a lot of covers in general.
People are trying to get her drive before Marvel.
Before Marvel takes her. Blade Runner. So let's discuss Blade Runner. If you know Blade Runner, it's usually a detective story. Centers around replicants and hypercorporatism. And yeah, that's what you get here. I will say there's not a lot of deviation from the standard Blade Runner formula, but it's also not boring. Like it's told really well. I like this current detective. I had a good time with it. So definitely check it out. Don't skip it. The art's pretty good. It's not the greatest, but it's pretty good. The cover is amazing though, so don't skip it at all. Next is Kara Andrews, Brian Reber, and this is Erratic. And I'm just gonna say it, like outright. Erratic from Upshot was one of the best comics this year to come out of this year. Like I didn't think I'd like it. I was just like, oh, it's another kid superhero. But I've really kind of liked this kid. He's into comics himself. The art is great, like top tier out of AWA. The storylines have been fun. I've also kind of gotten hooked into the school drama going on between him and the girl that he's interested in. So I've had and I don't know, the way the kid looks just kind of reminds me of my son. So I've really liked this comic. I've kind of fallen in love with it. And I'm having the best time with it. I know it's a new hero, and they're still fleshing out the power set and stuff like that. But when he gets the belt out in these issues, it feels really fun. Like he's just leaping from kick to kick, and I don't know. It's got a very early Spider-Man Sideways feel to it at times. I like that sort of thing. I just said Spider-Man Sideways feel to it.
I mean, if you
Sideways is clearly based on Spider-Man, and
Right.
yeah, so
I don't know that they extended. It's only a 5-book run.
yeah. I hope they do. Next is for Queen and Country, and that's Gris, DeVito, Underwood, and Woodward. The Union. Hey, did you want a story about Britannia and Union Jack? And did you want this? You ordered this, didn't you?
I did.
Are you having fun with it?
I enjoyed it. It wasn't like I didn't expect it to be like Venom's King in Black or
Yeah.
like
It feels
or
like
something.
discount King in Black to me.
But it's been interesting. It's different and it's interesting.
It's been interesting. I'm just not invested in these characters like at all. But it has been interesting. We do kind of see one of them sort of get killed in this issue, so it was kind of weird. But again, totally not invested in these characters. But Cam says he loves it, and Cam has better taste in comics than I do. So yeah, I'd say trust Cam. Anyways, it's pretty good. The art is great. The little to complain about the art. If you need another King in Black story, I'm sure you do. These stories are like crack cocaine. But in my opinion, it feels like discount King in Black. I don't know. This story was supposed to come out with another event, the one that centered around the Kotati. The Kotati. What was that event called? I've already forgotten. Empire. It was supposed to come out with Empire. So I kind of feel like the villains have been retooled to look like symbiote possessed characters. Oh, maybe that's just my 2 cents. Next is Ewing, Shitty, and Gracia. I'm forever going to mispronounce that name. Gracia. And we're talking about Sword! Or, X-Men Shield, kind of. I don't know. They sort of feel like the Power Rangers at time. I will confess being rather... I've known the X-Men my whole life, but I haven't been super invested in the X-Men. And now that all the Hickman stuff has started, I've been getting back into it and really enjoying it. So I don't know this team all that well, but I was not bored with this comic at all. The art was great. The storyline is, well, it's Ewing, so it's probably a masterpiece in the making. It was a good time all around. The art would sell me on it alone. And the ending was kind of surprising. We had a debate as to who that was at the ending. You're just going to have to pick it up and see. We think we figured it out from the tagline, but yeah, it was kind of a surprising ending. You'll see. So good. Pick it up. It's great. Next is Gwenn versus Carnage, King in Black. Maguire, Flaviano, and Renzi. I don't know. Should I spoil who the Carnage is? Should I say it? I mean, the cat's kind of out of
It's out of the bag and it's on the cover of issue number 2.
The cat is kind of out of the bag, so if you don't want to know the spoiler on this, maybe mute the mic for a second, but the Carnage is Mary Jane. And beyond that, we get Gwenn, and the way they justify Gwenn versus Carnage in this is actually kind of cool. I was hooked. The very beginning of it, at first, it just felt like a typical Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider novel, or not novel, comic. I'm tired. A normal comic. But the way it plays out and the way they sort of link the two of them and how Gwenn comes out in form, all felt right. Like it's definitely the writer just well, it's Maguire. She writes Spider-Gwen already. She knows her material really well. It felt perfect. I honestly had a really good time with it. Not my favorite of the King in Black books this week, but a close second, a very close second. So yeah, I had a pretty good time with it. Don't skip it. Do not. What is what?
Was it better than Symbiote Spider-Man?
In my opinion, everything is better than Symbiote Spider-Man. I don't like those books. I just like the covers. Next is Planet of the Symbiotes. This is Chapman, Thierry, Villanova, Bayreuth, White, and Rosenberg. Man, what a lineup on this cover. I'm trying to see if there are other King in Blacks this week. Is there any other King in Black this week?
It was Union, Spider, or Gwenn, Planet of Symbiotes, and
Okay.
I can't say anything.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna call it and say that Gwenn and Spider-Gwen or Gwenn versus Carnage was probably my King in Black pick of the week. But this is the close second, and that would be Planet of the Symbiotes. Why is this a close second? Well, they finally link up all this Web of Venom stuff and Scream, and they explain it properly, and they explain sort of Cassidy's, was it his father or grandfather, the OG serial killer? Yeah, they explain that. They explain Ravencroft. They explain like everything that's been going on around there and tie it off at a nice bow. And we get we do get a Cassidy in a new symbiote form for a new symbiote entirely that at least I don't recognize, and I don't know the name, and I was kind of blown away. He's kind of a cool villain, pretty cool to see. Looks cool. So yeah, come pick it up for that reason alone. Is it a good story? It's okay. It's pretty good. It was okay. It was just we all kind of wondered how they were going to tie all that Web of Venom Ravencroft stuff together, and they did it finally. They explained it, but when it finally comes together, it's like, oh, okay, like all right, I guess, sure, why not? Yeah. So it was pretty good. The art was kind of gritty, but it felt like that Web of Venom art, and that's what I wanted out of this. I mean, if you're gonna finally explain that, why not? Right. So, and Scream is doing what Scream does, and I love Scream's comics, even if they don't seem to sell all that much anymore.
They got King of Black coming out too.
Yeah. So, next is Dan Abnett, Jonathan Lau, Andrew Dalhouse, Hassan Adesmain Elhawa, and we're talking about Red Sonja, the superpowers. Well, we had what was it? Was it Vampirella, the superpowers, or was Vampirella Dark Powers? So that was Vampirella teaming up with the super team, and this is Red Sonja teaming up with the super team, and that's it. That's the premise. You're gonna get the origin story of how that happened to Red Sonja, how she wound up moving to that point in history. You're going to get a little Red Sonja backstory. I will say that as far as Red Sonja books are concerned, this one was pretty damn fun. And, that's saying a lot because some of those, they churn out so many of them, sometimes they feel a bit generic, and it's the same thing with Vampirella. Whenever there's Vampirella Red Sonja, we make the joke that it's Vampirella Red Sonja, not to be confused with Red Sonja Vampirella, which is a different comic. They've just changed it. So that should tell you how many of these they churn out. But this one was actually pretty high quality. The art was good. The story was fun. Wasn't bored. I would say if you're a Red Sonja fan, you probably should skip it. Next is issue number 1 of Haha, and this is Prince Del Rey from Image Comics. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting into with this. I just know that the story is centered around clowns, and the art sort of does have an Ice Cream Man vibe feel to it, which I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same artist as Ice Cream Man. But what I am going to tell you about this was that it was surprisingly well done. I thought it was setting it up to be like the Joker, the movie, not the Joker, not to be confused with the actual Agent of Chaos, but the movie that came out last year, or year before last. Was it last year? It was last year.
Last year. 2018.
2018. Okay, year before last. But it seemed like they were setting up to be like that, almost paralleling it at times. It felt like a grand statement on society, and then surprisingly went the opposite direction, where the clown himself turned out to be a hero, and things worked out in a beautiful way. Or maybe they didn't, now that I think about it. I don't know. There's some thought and depth to this story in Haha that now that I'm reflecting on it, like maybe it didn't turn out well. Maybe, I don't know. That was wow. The writer and the artist just got me, because now that I'm thinking over it, it could have gone either way. Anyways, so a great book. And if I'm gonna have to pick my indie pick of the week, it's gonna be this. I actually had a really good time with this and didn't expect to at all. I didn't know what to think going into it. It was great. Don't skip it. Next is Man's World. Victor Gischeller, Nico Walter, Snakebite Cortez. Do you know anything about Man's World? Apparently this is another brand or an older brand that has been sort of retooled. I had no idea. And Man's World reminds me of a Paradise place called Flossed in Paradise. No. It just felt like that when they were selling the Man's World. It felt like they were selling the Flossed in Paradise scene in God, what is it called? The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
With Ruby Ra. So I like the way they sold that. Yeah, it's Paradise, and there's trouble in Paradise, and people are trying to get to the bottom of it while being Taurus, oddly enough. So yeah, I want to know where they're going with it. I will say, as far as opening comics are, it was okay. It wasn't the strongest. The art at times, it didn't always feel quite that great. It was okay. It was okay art. Something about the facial expressions just didn't jive well with me at times. I'm not quite sure what it was. Pick it up, thumb through it, see if you like it before you pick it up. But it was okay. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. Next is Steve Orlando and David Tinto. That's Commanders in Crisis. Cam, you've been reading this, haven't you? You love it, don't you? You love it. I did not read any of these. I just jumped in on this, and I will say the art is amazing. Like really good art. Like
covers are amazing too.
Yeah, and the different characters all have like their own suits that look like knights, kind of.
And they're like all like different presidents, like first president of the United States, like a certain type of like one's like the first president of the United States.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea that's what they were doing here. All I saw was just a bunch of action and nice suits, and I was like, damn, this art's pretty good. Why have I been sleeping on this? So don't sleep on this, but also don't start with this issue because you will be as confused as I was. I was damn confused, but Cam loves this series, and I always defer to Cam when you recommend something. So it's great. It's great. Don't skip it. I'm sad that I was sleeping on it. Next is The Devil's Red Bride. This is issue number 4. This is Gerner, Bivens, Monahan, and Powell. This is honestly the best damn samurai story I've read in a long time. I've been having all types of fun. This is pretty much how she became sort of the Devil's Swordswoman. And there might be more meaning to that title as well. You'll have to read this to find out. But I will say I've not been bored. The action has been amazing. The politics of clans going back and forth has been amazing. I felt like I was reading a really gory Akira Kurosawa film. And I thought for sure it was finished at this one. But no, there was a surprise ending. And it's going into something else in the next issue. So do not skip this stuff at all. Now, granted, it's not my indie pick of the week. It's a close second, but it's been my indie pick of the week before. But don't skip it. Even if it's not my pick of the week, don't skip Devil's Red Bride. This series is awesome. And the art is amazing. It's perfect for a samurai story. I don't know how they nailed it any better. It's just outstanding. Next is Michael Gordon, Glenn Malone, Constantine, and with a K. Okay, and Paradius. And this is American Mythology Monsters. Now, I haven't read a horror book in a minute, save for Immortal Hulk, which is the best horror comic on the show. But this is, well, it's a black and white horror story, and it feels like those old school styles where they're just heavy on the ink. The first one centers around werewolves, and the second one centers around, well, it seems like Egyptian curses and mummies. I had a pretty good time with it. I think if you're a horror fan, you will absolutely love it. If you're anyone else, I don't think this is the horror book to jump in on. It's just my 2 cents. It's good, but I think you really have to be into horror, or at least be into the Universal Monster style of stuff. I think if you were into that, you would absolutely love it. Lahaina wants this in her box. Can we make that happen? Okay, we got you. Next is Marauders. This is Duggan, Lawley, and Delgado. The last issue. Did we finally kill Shaw? Because that was Kate Pryde's whole goal, was to kill Shaw, the Black King. Did the Red Queen kill the Black King? No. They gave him a choice that he could die, or he could be poisoned and sort of not tell anyone what he did, and so not be branded by the mutants as a traitor, and just live out the rest of that particular life completely nerfed and poisoned and messed up and in a wheelchair and stuff like that. So he opted, rather than telling all of the how he betrayed them, he opted to be poisoned and messed up. And it was awesome. What's up, Alex? Hey, happy birthday, man. Oh, is that the Alex? I don't know if that's the Alex that had the birthday recently. If it is, happy birthday. So we saw that play out, and it was awesome. That was a perfect ending. That was the exact kind of pirate story I wanted. More importantly, we're going to get a Crucible event in this. Now, if you don't remember the Crucible, it was almost a religious event that centered around a mutant that had lost her powers last time. And so in order to get her powers back, she was going to need to die in an arena in combat with Apocalypse. Now, Apocalypse is gone in this issue, so if you can't tell from the cover, they've tapped in a certain other mega mutant, not a Beyond Omega like Apocalypse, but an Omega nonetheless, and that comes in the form of Storm. So she's filling in the Crucible, and it makes sense because Storm has pretty much been the speaker at most of the Rebirth moments, so it would make sense that she'd be there for Death and Rebirth. I mean, that's the perfect thing for an Omega mutant to do. So I had fun with it. It was great, but that Crucible thing is really awesome. I don't know. They've introduced something that's super, super fun and awesome, and I love it. So that's what you're getting in this issue. There is more adventure in the form of Madripoor and the Red Queen. Honestly, Marauders has so many moving parts. So it's my favorite of the X books, which is weird because it's not written by Hickman. This is Dugan, but I definitely love Jerry Dugan. So, you know, that's the way I roll. Next is Pac Ienko. Not your birthday. Oh, okay. In store, not your birthday. Got it. Pac Ienko and Manon, and that is Star Wars Darth Vader. And oh man, we're finally getting part of the wrap up for that fight between the Sith assassin and Darth Vader. And last issue, we saw Darth Vader had been picked apart. Like his newly remade limbs out of droid parts were being like dusted up for scrap. He was not allowed to use the Force. He was down a lightsaber. He was just completely beaten, we thought. But you can't beat Darth Vader that easy. And the fight that happens in here as a Star Wars fan is epic. Is so good. That fight was just absurdly cool. And what happens after is awesome too. And I'm fully on board with this new Darth Vader run. I mean, Greg Pak just knocks it out the park all the time. So again, don't skip it. It's outstanding. Next is Claremont, Sinkovich. Wow, what a team. Claremont, Sinkovich, Chen, Olotigui, Booth, Deering, Hoagie, Corona, Sotomayor, Rosenberg, Arcianega, and Guri, Fex. That's the Chris Claremont anniversary special. Now, there's a lot of moving parts in this, and by a lot, I mean a lot. And they're referencing actual events that happened in the past. Well, not so much referencing, calling back maybe another story. I'm not entirely sure what's going on because I haven't read these storylines in a long time. But if you know how Rogue got her flight powers, you'll know what event is sort of happening in this book. Now, it's a Chris Claremont, so yeah, it's a page turner. I was not bored whatsoever. The art was good. It was told the proper way, and we're going to see the rise of, another Valkyrie in this story. So I had a good time. It's just, it seemed out of nowhere, but, you know, it's Claremont. Like, anytime Claremont pops up, I feel like Marvel is like, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, man. it was good. It was great. A good time. Don't skip it. If you're a Claremont fan, you probably already pre-ordered it. Next is a book that I'm torn on. This is King in Black. Why am I torn on this book, King in Black? I'm not sure. I didn't bond with the art. This is Rosenberg and Ferreira. And normally I really love Ferreira. I don't know what happened. Something about the art just felt a bit weird and off to me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And Rosenberg, well, I love Matthew Rosenberg. I don't hide that at all. So the story was really, really good. And it's centering around some of a new Thunderbolts team, some of an old Thunderbolts team, kind of, maybe. You'll see. You'll have to read it and see. Now, is it good? Yeah, there's a lot of action. It's the middle of King in Black. And the Kingpin put together this Thunderbolts team, which is weird. weird, and anything that opens with the Kingpin, you know, it's going to be a bit brutal. So I had a great time with it. Again, though, the art, pick it up, thumb through it, and see what you think of the art. I will say that one of my favorite new characters, in the form of a reality stone holding person, is in this issue. Yeah, yeah. So she's in this issue, and you can see her on the cover, but I didn't recognize her at first.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was great. I had a good time. I kind of liked how dysfunctional this team is, and my God, is it dysfunctional? It fell apart 2 or maybe 3 times during this reading. So yeah, well told. There's so many flaws here, which make it a stronger story. Next is issue number 2 of Homesick Pilots, and this is Waters, Wingard, Bittaker, and Mueller. Now, I got to tell you, this is a close second for my indie pick this week. Was not bored. The last issue, which was the opening issue, we saw a rock band that was angry at another rock band and a haunted house. And the haunted house was clearly patterned after the house in This War of Mine. Like, the artist clearly took inspiration from that house. But what happened in the last one? Well, a bunch of people got trapped in that haunted house, and it seemed to kill them. Meanwhile, the gal who was the lead singer and guitar player for the other band, she disappeared, and they went to the house to find her. And that's where this one picks up. Now, this one centers around finding artifacts that are haunted and bringing them back to the house. So, weird premise, came out of nowhere, and it seems like each issue is expanding on the story in really fun ways. Plus, I love the constant punk references. Like, they reference some good punk bands, and they seem to know their material. So the writer is pretty much in tune with that. The art is great, but it has a very, like, pink and blue heavy feel that I like. Anything that sort of feels even slightly 80s to me is fun. And I'm not sure, is this 80s or 90s that this takes place? I want to say late 80s. But anyways, late 80s, maybe mid 90s. Anyways, so Homesick Pilots, amazing story, and each issue expands in different ways. Oh, and there is a very, very touching monologue in the center of the story that is sort of like, you know, even if you could get it all and have all your wishes come true, but you felt completely detached from the moment, is it worth it? And I think that that's kind of a haunting message that a lot of us who have dealt with some trauma in the past could relate with. So yeah, good showing all around. I'm just in love with this book, so don't skip it. And now the last book of the week, which we need to discuss what happened last time. And okay, it's no surprise, this is again going to be my pick of the week for Marvel.
Is it the Immortal Hulk?
It's the Immortal Hulk. We knew it was going to happen. This is Ewing, Linz, Gorham, Stott, Bennett, Jose, O'Halloran, and Mounts. My God, there's so many people working on Immortal Hulk, and for good reason. Now, we need to talk about the events of last time, and actually the events of King in Black, Immortal Hulk.
Yeah.
So here's what we saw last time. Bruce Banner got ripped from the system and dragged to hell by the leader. At the same time, the Devil Hulk is friggin' dead, was killed. And leaving the only people, well, not the only people, but the last 2 strongest personalities in the system being that of Savage Hulk, who has been drained of most of his gamma and looks very, I don't know, Superman in Flashpoint type of thing. He's a very skinny Hulk, but his mind has been broken by the leader, and he thinks the leader is his dad and that his dad abused him when he was younger. So he's broken in monumental ways. So the Savage Hulk is essentially a kid, a childlike personality at this point. Which, again, is another thing tied to the whole dissociative identity disorder with different personalities. Meanwhile, Joe Fixit, of all people in human form, is left standing and is actually the one protecting the Savage Hulk, which we got in the form of the Black Immortal Hulk, which was the most beautiful story I think I've ever read with 0 dialogue whatsoever. It was amazing. So yeah, if you didn't get that story, you need to go pick it up. But we saw Joe Fixit and the Savage Hulk escape from Gamma Flight. I keep wanting to call him Alpha Flight. And now in this issue, as it picks up, Gamma Flight is at war with their the people that are controlling Gamma Flight or funding Gamma Flight. Meanwhile, we've got a few people back. Doc Samson is back, but he's in Sasquatch's body. We've seen other people, yeah. So what's going on right now with the Immortal Hulk mythos is that the leader has blocked certain doors. So instead of like not going through those green doors, now we have different personalities going through different green doors. So Doc Samson went to hell and went through Sasquatch's green door and then came back with his power set. Meanwhile, the very, very last page of the last issue showed the Devil Hulk hanging off the arm of the Absorbing Man, which was all types of twisted and messed up. But he's back. Now, the leader has absorbed Bruce's dad's personality and has absorbed the One Below All.
What?
Yeah, we knew that a couple issues back. But the problem with that is that, well, the leader devoured the One Below All, or did the One Below All let himself be devoured? He is the devil. So, yeah. Man, I gotta tell you, Al Ewing has weaved this beautiful tapestry that is just like an action film version of Shakespeare, and with all the twists and turns. And something we predicted from the very beginning involving the certain reporter being super into the Hulks has come true. If you were in this in the beginning, you probably expected this a long time ago. But we finally get to see that in this issue, so don't skip it. It's the damn best book of the week. Don't skip it. It's amazing. And that's our show for this week. We have plenty of future state right. Well, no, it's not true. We have some future state right now. Not plenty, because people keep hitting us up after FOC. We have plenty of Immortal Hulk, and we've got plenty of nullified variants this week, oddly enough. So come pick them up. It's an awesome week for comics. It felt a little light, but it's still really, really a good week for comics. And that's our show for this week. We'll see you next week. Hi, Lahaina. I will throw that book in your box right now.
We got it.
Oh, you already got it?
Yep.
Handled? Okay. And we'll see you next week. Anything else to add? No?
Peace, love, and chicken grease.
Peace, love, and chicken grease. Be safe, everyone. We love you. Fix this and fix that. Okay, end stream.